Okay, so I know that this is a Leeds United video, and this is a quite long metaphor, but you're going to have to stick with me for a minute, okay? Okay. Operation Teapot was a series of nuclear tests that took place in Nevada in the 1950s. Everyone watched on in spectacle as they saw this brand new invention be something that would bring a fantastic advantage, but at the same time, they didn't know the negative effects that it could have on everything that they were relying on. And this is Leeds United's Director of Football, Victor Orta, as many, many thousands of people watched on as the contracts that he created led to a disaster that were unforeseen by all involved. Is that metaphor a little bit too harsh? For those that have somehow missed all of the news, a hell of a lot of Leeds United players have left the club on loan, and most of it is because of a clause that has been in all of their contracts, saying that if Leeds United got relegated, they could just go out on loan. Maybe the other club would pay the wages, maybe if Leeds United stayed down, they'd get to stay there on loan. We don't 100% know, but it's just one step in the issues that Victor Orta has caused at Leeds United, and I'm going to take a quick look at that. Now, the first thing I'm going to actually look at is those contracts, because whilst recruitment is an issue, it's an issue for later on in the video. Now, one of the main things that Leeds United had been praised for was the fact that there were relegation clauses in those that meant that players would get paid less as the club went down. That makes sense, the club is making less money, the players are making less money. All of that adds up. Now, independently, this seems like a really good idea. The club's able to balance its finances a little bit more and start rebuilding towards normalcy. However, when you take the loan contract into account and the fact that there's a clause there that allows players to leave, things get a little bit worse. One of the things that other clubs might have sort of considered an obstacle to them getting Leeds United's players in on loan is the wages, because most loans involve paying the wages of the player. Now those wages are lower, and the likes of Lewis Sinistera are on far cheaper per week costs for clubs that want to loan them, which means it's a lot easier for them to loan them, which means there's more demand, which means we're likely to lose even more players out on loan. Everything has been engineered towards making this loan situation even worse, even the things that were well intentioned and didn't look like they'd blow up in our faces. And then we come on to recruitment, and Victor Orta liked two different types of players. He loved his youngsters with a hell of a lot of potential, and that's where I'm going to go with this first section. The likes of Jan Poveda, Willie Nonto, Crescencio Somerville were good signings. They're really good footballers at the moment, and Poveda seems to be having his breakthrough season at the moment. Nonto, we don't really want to talk about Nonto right now, but it's sort of relevant in the same way that Somerville is, because they're both players that are too good for the Championship, playing at a Championship club, and that means that they want to push for a move even more. Those players that aren't quite good enough when they're younger and are developing through, we've accidentally developed them into Premier League players in the season that we're in the Championship, and that's caused even more people to drive for a move away, including Nonto, who is just refusing to play for the club at the moment. The other type of player is the project or the rebuild, and you typically see this with Spanish players that Victor Orta signed, so we're talking the likes of Junior Firpo at left back, Mark Rocker in centre mid, and to an extent Rodrigo. Now, the vast majority of these moves do not work out. They are players that, for a good reason, are not playing very much at the clubs that they are in La Liga or the Bundesliga. That's because they're not quite good enough, and if you're not good enough for La Liga, you're not going to be good enough for the Premier League. However, these players also think they are too good for the Championship, and therefore push even harder for a move away from Elland Road. That puts Leeds in such a difficult spot where the only players we have at the moment are your academy players, the players that were here before Bielsa, which is like 5 years ago now? Something insane like that? And then the odd player that's decided to stick around, like Jorginho Rutte, looks like he genuinely cares about playing for the club because he's still here, I suppose. It's an awful situation to be in because Leeds have a hell of a lot of work to do in terms of getting players in, and there's still players looking to force a way out. There's an Okey-Kokey joke here somewhere, but I'm just too miserable to try and find it. If you add on the fact that Leeds have a completely new ownership as well, and the slate has been wiped entirely clean, they don't even have a foundation to build off of. Leeds are stood on the edge of a precipice, and with good recruitment, sure, they can keep building up and potentially push for promotion, but that needs to start right now. There's rumours of some players potentially coming in, Glenn Kamara from Rangers, for example, but the sooner that happens and the sooner all of the outgoings are sorted, the sooner that Daniel Farker can try and get his team together and build some sort of cohesion with players that actually want to stay. As miserable as that was, I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment what you think below and subscribe. See you later.